You are listening to episode number 17 of the Emotional Freedom Podcast. And today we are going to talk about the mentors in our life. Stay tuned. Hi, I want to welcome you to this Emotional Freedom Podcast. And if this is your first time with us, happy listening. And I hope that you will come back to listen to more of the episodes. Now, today's episode, I want to dedicate it to mentors. Mentors being people who actually have played a very big role in our life, especially in how our life has been shaped, as well as the steps that we take, as well as didn't take. Now, mentors are very important because without mentors, a lot of us would have to struggle, go around beating around a bush, as well as just being stuck in a place and unable to move forward. So, a mentor that is a good mentor, that is someone whom I would consider as very rare to find. And if you ever meet such a mentor in your life, what you really need to do is be thankful that they are in your life. Be thankful that, they really help you out without expecting anything in return. And that is something that is, it is something that is so precious and something that is also so valuable. And at the same time, it can also be vulnerable. Vulnerable because we sometimes take things for granted. Like the mentors that we have, there are times whereby we may have accidentally excluded them, or we may have, accidentally hurt them in the process of us, going after the goals in our life. So, I would really want you to take one step back and really think about who are the mentors in your life, who are the ones who have really, really helped you so much, and ask yourself this question. How have you shown them your appreciation? And I think that is so important. So today I want to share with you a mentor of mine who has really helped me a lot, especially when I was going through my career. Then now that I think of it, there are two. There were two mentors, yeah? And interestingly, both of them look very similar. Similar in the sense that they were both much older than me. So the first person I want to talk about is Derek Tan. Derek Tan was someone whom I met when I was attending a church in Kuala Lumpur. And at that time, he was actually the GM for Delhi, France in Malaysia. And being part of the church organizing committee for one of the concerts that we were organizing, we were actually bringing an international team, a band, into Kuala Lumpur to do a crusade. And I was put in charge of some department. I don't quite remember that because that happened when in, I think, 1996, if I'm not mistaken. That was so long ago. So we were called into the meeting and the chairperson was Derek. So I remembered when he asked for the update, he asked for the report. I was just answering him by giving him some very vague answer, like on the way, or everything is okay. I believe that he got a bit irritated by it, and then he put down his book, and then he asked me one question sternly. Now, to be very honest, I was ticked off right there and then. I was offended right there and then even. And he said this to me. He said, you were put in charge of this department. You are supposed to have all the figures ready, but you don't have those ready. What does it tell me about how you are doing it? You need to buck up. You need to put in your effort into it and not just treat it as if it is something for fun. This is something very important. You are doing God's work. So my first thought was, how dare you? How dare you? This is free. It's a voluntary job. I'm taking time off from my studies to do this. How dare you be so rude about it? But of course, I didn't say it. And there was one part of me that deep down inside, I realized that he was right. I wasn't serious. And because I wasn't serious, there have been instances in my life before whereby things didn't go well. And it all boiled down to me not being serious about things. So I went back home, I went back to the hostel, and Derek's words just keep on playing in my head over and over and over again. Eventually, the following day, I called him up and I apologized and I said, I'm sorry, I didn't do a good job. Could you help me, please? Please teach me how to do a better job. Because this is the first time for me. I don't know. So Derek took me under his wings and he started to coach me and he started to guide me. And I think it was from that few months, whereby we were organizing this event for the church, that it really enabled me to learn so much about leadership, about working with people, about how important it is for us to be serious in what we do and not just adopt a play attitude. And I really thank Derek Tan for that. So another example of a mentor that suddenly came to my head just now as I was starting this podcast was Tony Go. Same thing. He was also he was much older than me as well, and he was the first general manager that I served under in the life insurance company. You see, at that time, I was just a rookie in the life insurance field. Now, there is a backstory to that about how I ended up in the life insurance business. Let me just share with you what happened, okay? I was working as a lecturer in one of the local colleges in Miri, and my wife was expecting our first child. Now, at that time, I started my own business, the first business that I did, which was actually a language learning center. And frankly speaking, it wasn't making enough of money at all. And I was taking a full-time job. I was doing a part-time job at night just to make ends meet. And eventually, I began to realize that if I don't do anything different, how are we going to be able to support our new baby who came along? So at that time, my wife started to ask friends, do you have any job opening and all that? And sure enough, there was a job opening, and it was as an agency development manager for a life insurance company. So what attracted me was the word development. Development to me means teaching, means training, and that was something that I'm passionate about. So I called up my the regional manager, and his name was Johnny. And Johnny and I, we have become good friends ever since then. But at that time, I felt like he was quote unquote conning me to take on the job because I remember I asked him, so is this job about training? I think at that time I should have gotten the cue when there was a bit of a hesitation in how he answered me, because eventually he answered me, yes, there is training and all that, right? So I signed up for the job. I went into the job for on the first day of the job, I was given all the things to read as my staff orientation. And then I realized hey, this job is about sales. It's about recruitment of agents. Where is the training thing, So I felt conned into it. But anyway, because my wife was going to deliver our son soon, so I just toughed it up and I went for the training. So the training took place in Kuala Lumpur, so I flew to KL, and that was where I met the GM, Mr. Tony Go. Now, you would have imagined, right? As a general manager of a life insurance company, your first priority would be to drive sales, would be to bring in the numbers, bring in the figures, because that's what the job is about. But during the management meeting, and I was there, first time there, he called on me and he singled me out of everyone. And he told me this. He said, look, you have just joined. This is September. And I'm giving you 3 months until December for you to familiarize yourself with this, with the branch, with the running and everything. So for these 3 months, I'm not going to chase you for the figures. I'm not going to chase you for the numbers. But your job is to learn up whatever you can. Get to know all the agencies there so that you can begin working with them, so that you can lead them effectively to achieve the goal. And that to me was such a relief, because that means that I was given time for me to prepare before I started to deliver. Because at that point, I was ready to quit because it was so stressful. I have no idea what life insurance business is all about. I have no idea about how the agency works. And I was just so uncomfortable doing sales. But his words was really comforting. And the next thing you know was he asked me out for lunch with the CEO. And while waiting for the CEO to come, he asked me something. He said, "Look, do you know what's the most important thing that you need to do in this job?" So I quickly think of the correct answer, which was to drive sales. And he looked at me with a smile and says, "Yes, that's what you're supposed to do, but what is the best way to drive sales?" He got me there. And I says, "I don't know, please tell me." And that was something that I learned from him, which ever since then, I've been doing it all the time. And he said this, he said, "Look, the most important thing that you can do is to manage the agency's emotion. The most important thing that you can do is to manage a person's emotion. Because if you can manage his or her emotion, you have won their heart, they will go the extra mile for you." And those words really sank in, because now I had a direction, and that was to earn the trust of the people, to build emotional capital, to manage their emotions. And that was such an insightful thing for me. So those were the two people whom I considered as really, really important mentors. Although they don't really spend a lot of time with me sitting down to teach me like that, but those two encounters, they were enough for me to really get a big aha moment in my life. And I really thank them so much for that. So what about you? Who are your mentors? Do you have a mentor? Now, if you are looking for a mentor, what you need to do is humble yourself and approach them and ask them whether they can teach you. Now, it doesn't have to be a formal teaching. You don't have to sit down in a classroom. It can be you buying them dinner. And then during that time, prepare yourself with some questions to ask them, to tap into their enormous wealth of experience. And I think when that happens, sometimes one idea for them, it's all it takes for you to find that breakthrough that you need in your life. So I hope that you will meet this mentor in your life, if not now, pretty soon. I'll see you tomorrow.